And we welcome you in the Sam and Cole podcast on the day that the U.S. men's national team advances to the knockout round and on the day that Patrick Young waits to be drafted. Brought to you by Black Creek Outfitters. I was in there today, and Sam, to mimic your, or to confirm your comment, I wasn't in the store 4 seconds before somebody said, "Can I help you?"
Can I help you? Right.
Went and looked at some different shirts, some high-tech shirts, stuff that I could wear during training camp and standing out there in the sun. So what are you going to be wearing them for? What are you going to be doing while you're wearing them? Standing mostly. And so found some shirts I liked. Sizes weren't right. Found some sizes that I liked. Designs weren't right. So okay, we'll just order some in. So they're ordering some in for me, and I'll be busting those out for training camp or maybe some barbecues between now and then.
I like it. Very nice.
All right, U.S.
Not a unique experience, by the way.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and by the way, Guy had no idea who I was.
Right.
A few other people who were in there figured it out, but this was not because he thought, "Oh, hey, this guy talks about us on the podcast." So,
right.
Great experience there. Very knowledgeable. All right, men's national team. I think the tweet that I liked the best coming off of this one was Mix Discarud, who did not get in the game, but his tweet, a member of the U.S. men's national team, best loss ever.
Right. A lot of things at play there today, and not the least of which was the extra day of rest that the Germans had, which I kind of discounted when they first when Klinsmann brought that up after the tie with Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
But today it was very evident that made a difference. And I've read a lot recently about the U.S. national team's nutritionist, their chef, what they're doing. They're doing a lot of the things, the real advanced stuff in terms of recovery and training and so forth. And I think only because of that they were able to play at that level for probably 65 of the 90 minutes or so in the match. Also, against a team like Germany, Josie Altidore is the perfect guy to have up top, and he obviously was not available. So you've got two more finesse-type players who are trying to be that up front. And, and I do think, and you probably heard some of this commentary later, that's why the 23-man roster is so important, because if Josie Altidore gets hurt, it's legitimate to ask, why isn't Eddie Johnson on the team? And, there are some questions about the picks that he made, but clearly he admitted afterwards, you need all 23 guys, and the most important thing now is we get to focus on one team, and that team is Belgium on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Belgium in just a moment. A couple of observations I had on that match. Number one, the rain, it was coming down just about the whole time.
The whole time. Apparently it's been raining since 3 o'clock in the morning there, too.
Yeah, and we saw some shots beforehand. Grant Wall from Sports Illustrated was there trying to get to the match, taking pictures, and it looked like, McCoy's Creek during a tropical storm. So, it was, you're talking about 3 feet of running water in the streets there in Recife. I thought the pitch seemed to hold up pretty well, but obviously that was a factor. And from an offensive standpoint, Germany was very methodical. They were like a basketball team running their offense. The U.S. was like a team hoping to get a cherry pick to get a bucket downfield.
Mm-hmm.
They could not have counted on the ability to control the ball in the offensive half of the field against Germany. Germany just wasn't going to have it. Clearly, Germany is a more skilled team top to bottom than the U.S. had on the field. But 1-0, okay, respectable loss. And the best part, now you move on, and you wouldn't have to see Germany again for a long time. And if you see them again, things are going pretty well for you.
And for people who are new to the game, hey, if the Patriots lose their last game of the year, but they already know their position in the playoffs, that's kind of what this was like. And and I thought Klinsmann really laid it out pretty well. He said, the pool play, the group play is very, very different mindset. You think about, okay, we got to play Ghana, and then, Cristiano Ronaldo is in the next match, and then Germany, one of the best teams in the world, is in the next match. So all this is swirling around in your head. He said, now we get to concentrate on one team and the next thing, and that's the game coming up. So I just think that it clearly shows the growth of the game. Better athletes are choosing the game. It also shows that people know a little bit more about the game when people are able to say, gee, Michael Bradley's not playing as well as he did in the friendlies. And people are right when they say that. He's still hardworking, very high rate, when in the midfield.
Covers a lot of ground.
A lot of ground, but he's not making those. And I think the announcer made a good point. He said, those are the balls that he's not quite getting clean these days that he was getting clean for a couple weeks leading in. So, have they played their best game? No. In fact, they haven't played as well as they played against Nigeria here yet. Maybe for small spurts. There was in stoppage time or in extra time. There were a couple of good chances that were created by the Americans, and I tweeted out because that's the American sensibility, and I was proud that those guys seem to have that, because when you're down 1-0, the other game is now tied. If Ghana scores, you're out. If you don't score, there were American teams in the past that fold their tents and lose that match 3-0 and maybe don't go. But instead, these guys, it took them a while, and there was a sequence there where the defenders, the backs were kicking it back and forth, and they kicked it back to Howard a couple of times, and there was no pressing by Germany, and it was the equivalent of calling timeout. And hey, let's get our act together here, and because you can't call timeout in a soccer match, I just thought it really served the right purpose to let those guys kind of get themselves back together, and there's a difference in cultures. I mean, and I don't think it's politically incorrect to point out the difference in cultures, because you can see it in how the games are played, how different teams approach it, and the Americans and the Germans approach it very much the same way. Part of that has to do with, obviously, Klinsmann's our coach, but we have the same kind of sensibility as Germans and as the Russians, and very different approach to the game than the Brazilians or even the English do.
And I would say that one of the big differences between the Germans and the Americans are two. One, Germany, a very physical team, and I think a more physical team than the U.S. will see against Belgium. Number two, the U.S. is not as skillful as the Germans, but they are a very willful team. They play with a lot of will. They will their way in. It's a team of heart more than it is a team of great technical skill, and that's kind of an easy team to root for, and it's an easy team to be to play that underdog role. You'd like to get to the point where in the United States they are a more skillful team. Doesn't have to necessarily be Jordan, Magic, and Bird playing on the Dream Team as far as the skilled difference.
Remember,
like to see more skilled players playing on the U.S.
And we're a country of 330 million people, and the best athletes choose football, baseball, basketball, and hockey because that's where the money is in this country. And we may get to a point in the next 20 years where some of the best athletes will choose to play soccer, because not that they'll pay that kind of money in the MLS, but because the Premier League will want those players who have become that skillful, even if they are Americans. But if you said, here's our national team, Toby Gerhardt, LeBron James,
A.J. Green.
I mean, Larry Fitzgerald. You take all these guys who are fantastic athletes. I mean, just phenomenal, and put them on a soccer pitch. All of a sudden, it's an unfair situation because we beat everybody if that's the case. But that's not the case right now because it's not our chosen game.
Speaking of some of those power forwards and small forwards who are out there, we'll just touch on it. You've got to do newscast here in a moment. Against Belgium, the guy to watch, obviously, is going to be the Chelsea striker, midfielder rather, but a big goal scorer, Eden Hazard. He's the guy who wears number 10 for Belgium, and he's the guy who is the most skilled and talented guy with the ball. So that's the guy that the U.S. has to keep under control. I think he was 4th in the EPL in goal scoring this year.
Goal scoring, right. Yeah.
NBA draft going on as we tape this. Andrew Wiggins, the number 1 pick, and they're at the 38th pick, and the Pistons are on the clock right now, and we're waiting to see when Patrick Young might go in the draft. And I've spent a fair amount of time around Patrick Young. You spent a lot of time around him, and it's neat to see a guy who's just a good kid from Jacksonville who it looks like he's going to get a chance to play in the NBA, or at least to prove that he can play in the NBA, whether he's drafted or goes as a free agent.
And not taken in the first round, now you have a 50-50 thing here. Do you really want to get picked in the second round? Because as a second-round pick, you're not the favored son. You're not really guaranteed a spot on the team. You're not going to make that much money. Is it better if you don't get drafted and then look at the situation that of the teams that you worked out for, of the teams that you interviewed with, and sign with one of them as a free agent because it's a better fit for you? And that's where Patrick sits now. And at 6'8", 250, with willful but not skillful, right? He has no mid-range game, certainly no long-range game, but he is a role player in terms of he'll bang, he'll set picks, he'll try to rebound, he'll take fouls. He's got a spot in the NBA somewhere, and it wouldn't surprise me if he bounced around to two or three teams before he found the exact right spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, that'll do it for the Sam and Cole podcast. We'll catch up with you before Tuesday's match against Belgium, a 4 o'clock start Eastern time, and going to be fun as the U.S. tries to make to the quarterfinals just the second time in history. Follow Sam on Twitter at Sam Kavaris. Follow me on Twitter at Cole Pepper. And thanks to Black Creek Outfitters for presenting the Sam and Cole podcast. Have a great time, everybody.